Welcome to the Sacred Dance Summit. I'm Leslie Zehr, author of The Alchemy of Dance, Sacred Dance as a Path to the Universal Dancer, and your host for the summit. Today, my guest is Jup Jansonius. Jup dances and teaches the 5 rhythms in Amsterdam in the Netherlands. She's a waves and heartbeat teacher and is deeply in love with the practice. Since 1998, when she first set foot on a 5 rhythms floor, she was hooked. It is through the map of the waves that she started to understand life and become connected to her own body and being. Dance gives her a vocabulary for the things she cannot say but can only express through her body. It connects her to everything and everyone on a very deep level and provides a safety net for times of discomfort. The dance grounds her and connects her to her feet so that she can walk the earth in confidence. It gives her a sense of direction and the passion to stay adventurous. It helps her break through old habits and makes her try new things without effort. The dance is the most creative place she knows, and every time she dances, she's so inspired that she feels herself expanding and freed. It is in this freedom that she finds her breath and stillness. In her teaching, she always uses her own experiences. She doesn't talk about things she hasn't danced herself or worked through herself. She loves to bring an earthiness to her teaching. In the end, life is also about doing things like buying groceries and bringing the children from school. Adding the power of dance to everyday life is amazing. Every single thing becomes more magical, playful, and alive. Mainly, she teaches grown-ups and works with female empowerment. Before she became a 5 rhythms teacher, she was a high school teacher, working with dance in a lover-boy prevention program, helping vulnerable girls not to fall into prostitution. She's also teaching 2 to 4-year-olds and is working with an Alzheimer's group. Jup works with a very diverse population, and every time she teaches a class or workshop, she's amazed by the simple transformative quality of the dance. There is such brilliance in our bodies. Moving your feet, you can hardly get attached to a single thought. Moving your arms, and your heart will expand you and open you up. Finally, science is beginning to acknowledge the power of dance and the healthy benefits of moving your body to music. Presently, she teaches weekly classes, weekend workshops, week-long retreats, DJs, and has developed a personal leadership training program through dance. Welcome, Jup. Welcome to the summit.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me, Leslie. I'm really honored to be here, and I really love to share with the bigger audience.
Well, we're happy to have you here. You have a lot of interesting things to tell us today. So let's just get at it. Okay, so I want to begin with just a little bit about your dance experience. You say in the introduction how you really found yourself on the dance floor, the 5 rhythms dance floor. Is that the first dance experience, or did you do any kind of dancing before that, or that was really the beginning?
No, that was actually, I could say that was really the beginning. You know, sure, when I was 12 or something, I went to a ballet class and that didn't resonate at all. I was always too tall, my arms were too long, anything was moving too much. I couldn't follow.
It wasn't a good experience.
No, and the thing, like, everybody goes to the left and then I'm going to the right. So it was not my practice. And, but I really love to dance. So secretly, I was dancing in my room, and I really loved music from a very young age, not to create it, but to listen to it, to play to it. And I was a member of an illegal radio station, so I could phone them in and say, oh, can you please put on my favorite record, blah, blah, blah. And so, from the age when I was allowed into bars and dancings, I was dancing, and it was the time of acid house, but drugs never resonated with me. So, but I could really feel this sense of ecstasy when I was dancing. And then somebody said to me like, oh, but then I know something for you. You have to come with me to the Bhagwan Center. And I was a bit like, oh yeah, really? And actually she was really right, you know, like there were these two people and they were in the beginning of their teacher training path doing this 5 rhythms thing. And it was like, you know, like sometimes something clicks. Well, that moment it all fell together and I felt like, wow, this is my click. This is what I think
that's so true. I think it's important to find your niche. Like we all have, I think many of us like to dance, but until you find that type of dance that really resonates with you, yeah, you may feel awkward. It may not be the right one for you, but it's good. You found the one that opened you up.
Yeah, and also the one that tore me down and that really freaked me out, you know, because dance is not about and then we're always happy, you know, like that's what I love about 5 rhythms, that there's a map underneath that involves the light and the shadow, that also brings the awkwardness and the unease to you know, because it is just part of me. There are rooms when I walk in there, or even Christmas dinner with my family, you know, it's not an easy place. It's not, you know, but what is your, you know, like how can you breathe into this body? And that's what I love about 5 rhythms, because it is the dark and the light. It, you know, it's not only about finding bliss. It is also finding bliss in the darker moments. And for me, that is why I deeply...
And to work through them.
Sorry?
And to work through them.
Yeah, to work through
them. So that you can find the joy on the other side.
Yeah, and sometimes, you know, like I think if I ask, this weekend I was teaching a heartbeat, and then I asked people, you know, think about the moment you felt completely in despair, you know, when you cried your eyes out. Be really honest with yourself. There is ecstasy in there, you know? There is if you really surrender to, and even if you're at your maddest, you know, and you want to throw the whole cutlery through the room or whatever, that moment, that is the same state as in joy. And it's for me, I think it's my mission in life to help people understand that fabric of energy.
To see both sides, yeah.
Yeah, and to accept that it's there, and that we're, you know, we're thrill seekers. So if we can't find it in the light, we will look in the dark. I'm so sure of that, you know. Yeah.
So tell us a bit about 5 rhythms. Tell us just a brief overview of what it's about.
Well, it is founded by Gabrielle Roth somewhere in the 60s. She was dancing and involved in Big Zehr, in the community there, and met all these various great people in the 60s, you know, and they really inspired her to develop her dance, and she was a very wise, I don't know, you know, like I'm fortunate that I've met her several times, and I really was impressed by how she was connected to everything. And she started to observe and feel in her body these 5 different kind of energy moves, you know, like, and for she's the first one is the flow of life, you know, like, yeah, and it is how you start to move, and of course for everybody that's a little bit different, but if you see, like, it's It's a round energy, and it's like how you say, I'm sorry for my English, by the way, but it's like the circles in nature, you know, like the one thing comes from another, you know, the winter, and then spring follows automatically, and then after spring it becomes summer, it becomes fall. So there's a continuum, and in that continuum you can find your body, your movements, and it is for me it is more the yin of the practice. It's the softer parts, it's also where the dark, the inertia is home, and you know, and if you move along for long enough, your body starts, you know, like it's the same. And I always explain my students, like, you know, if you move along with somebody else, or you're in a relationship and you're the yes person, you say, oh yes, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, then there will inevitably comes a moment where you think, no. And then you will, you know, you will cut this whole process into more action, and into more focus, and into more percussiveness, and power and energy, and so that's the staccato in life. And Gabrielle made a really beautiful physical map, and we will show the viewers later on how that works in your body, you know. And when you go from moving along into a more focused mindset, body set, you know, the focus and the fire has you can't hold that up for a very long time, you know. It will be a breakthrough, and that's what we call the chaos, where you have to surrender to anything that follows. And in your body, you know, like if you are in a bad shape, you will collapse probably. But if you soften up more, your body starts to, you know, like, but you surrender to movements that are not flowing or staccato, they are both. And they become like, you can't figure them out anymore. And that is a place where you really find refuge in surrendering and letting go of the ego, letting go of all the... And, you know, when you really allow your body to surrender, inevitably you will find more lightness. It is, you know, it's like, I always explain my students, if you had a good cry, really, you know, you sobbed and you drool and everything, and then after that everybody starts smiling at you, because your face is so open, and you feel light, and you feel free, and the whole world seems to love you. And you really, and I always find that an amazing place. I don't know. So, and that is in the dance as well, you know. After you've gone through the high beats and the power, there will be something light and easy to serve on. And then actually you let go of anything you let go of, you know. So the dance becomes you, and that we call lyrical. And from that place, it's so much easier to find some stillness. And the stillness is not dropping dead on the floor, you know. We've got a lot of time for that in the afterlife, but it's more the moving with breath. And for me, that map cleared so much in how energy travels, in how, and that you can either be a victim of these energies, or when you really practice yourself, you can play with them, and you can move along with them, and you can evoke them. And so that is why the 5 rhythms to me became a very healing practice, because it gave me tools to understand these processes, these energy flows, these shamanic tasks we have. Gabrielle wrote a couple of books, and she has beautiful, she divided it into levels. So you have the physical level of the practice, you have the emotional level of the practice, you have the life stages level of the practice, you have the ego level of the practice. And then there's also the sexual level of the practice, where we go into the archetypal energy. And that is, yeah, for me, it's profound work. And every day I miss her. I want to write to her, but I always keep feeling her presence, and I see her in every dancer on the floor. So, and if people are interested, go to 5rhythms.com and you find anything on this very inspiring lady. So I hope that.
Yes. I think we'll watch the video now, so that everyone can get a brief idea about what that actually looks like.
Yeah. Welcome with our little video. My name is Jup Jansonius. This is Fabiola, and he is Sophie, my lovely assistant. And we're gonna take you through the gateways of 5 rhythms. I showed you on the video, which I thank you for watching, what 5 rhythms is all about. And now we're gonna show you in the physicalities of it. Flowing. Gabrielle drew us a beautiful map into the dance by moving our feet first. And it seems pretty logical, but so many times we are not grounded in our feet. So flowing invites you to drop your weight and really research the movements from your feet. And try to get them into a continuous movement. Giving your head, your shoulders, your spine to the flow of your feet. And then when you do so, you will notice that your hips, your knees, your elbows, your shoulders are calling you into something bigger to come out and play. Staccato. Things get more form and shape, breath, movement. And it opens the center to your fire, your passion. And then your body will say, hey, surrender, surrender. And your spine will drop its weight. Yes. Chaos. Really releasing your spine, your muscles, your stress into a dance. Yes. And when you do so, you will feel your hands moving you into something bigger than you. Lyrical. You dance with the space around you, taking in, following, and the dance becomes you. Yes, beautiful. And then it will dissolve into this breathing and moving body, a dancing meditation. Stillness. This is a short introduction into the 5 rhythms. I hope it will invite you to come and play and embody your whole being, as there's so much beauty hidden inside of you, and let the dance bring it to us. Thank you for watching.
Okay, now you've seen what it looks like. So tell us a little bit more about the healing aspects of the dance.
I think for everyone who is on the floor, that will have their own personal experience and level into it, but kind of scientifically, if we look, you know, what you've seen in the video, to the gateways, so the physical gateways into these rhythms, in flowing, we use our feet. And physically, if we start to move our feet, our brain has to go to a different mindset, because, you know, when we freeze and when we hold our breath, we go into the reptilian mind. But when we start to move, the left and right brain coordination helps us to expand our brain and our mind. And so I think it's bloody brilliant when you start to move your feet. You still think, but you can't grab hold on one single thought, you know? It's like you move through a landscape, and that landscape is physical, energetical, but also in your mind. And for me, that's so interesting. And then the healing thing is, if you move your feet on the ground, you ground your body, you connect yourself more to the earthy energy. And in this day and age where everything's very high in energy and we're sit a lot, and so there is a physicality to the healing. Simply you start to move your body, and that's healthy, and you know, you raise your heartbeat and everything. But there's also this more energetic spiritual level where you start to ground your body and find ground underneath your feet, which is so important, because if I don't have ground underneath my feet, how can I relate to somebody else, you know? And
well, and I think we need to remind ourselves that we're on this earth.
Yeah. And
to be in that
taking care of it.
Yeah. That's the next step.
Oh,
but
yes.
yeah,
and
to be present. Yeah, to be present and to realize that you are connected to that. So
yeah. And also, you know, the soles of your feet, like I've been traveling a lot, and I've been spending a lot of time in the woods and with tribes as well. And when I was with hunters, I always knew that they got messages through their feet, you know, their ears, their nose, their backs. But these feet could feel like, there's a change in temperature, there's a change in underground, there's a change in, oh, I feel something moving somewhere. This sensitivity. But we put on shoes, and mostly very fancy shoes that after a day kill you, you know. And so one of the healing parts of the practice, it's barefoot, with bare feet. And that helps, you know, also to spread your toes, to make more ground underneath your feet, to get back into the claws again, you know, like these. Yeah, it's also a bit animalistic, I think, or maybe it's a wrong English word, but then forgive me. But for me, it feels really like, wow, if I really relax into my feet, I can feel so powerful. So that's the first aspect of the healing for me, is to really feel how I can stand and move in a way that I'm connected to the ground underneath me. And then in the rhythm of staccato, where we more go into the percussiveness and the shapes and the form and the focus, I can really start to feel my boundaries. Where am I beginning? Where am I stopping? Where is the place where I can let you enter my space or not, you know? And also, the healing aspect for me into this, if you start to move your body into this more from the hips, from the heart, you can feel like all the energies that are sticking to you that are not actually belong to you or something. You know, life can feel like a coat that is a little too small, or like a lot of we women, we go into a shop and we will try on that blouse that we know is just one size too small, but we're going to try it because we're going to lose weight. You know, nothing can freak me out more than being in something that I can't get out of. You know? But I still
Good
keep
for
going.
you.
Yeah. And so for me, the rhythm of staccato is also expanding my range, is also, you know, getting this energy, you know, stretching this amount of energy around me so I have more space to move. And that is a healing aspect for me. And also, I showed a little on the video. If you start with your feet and then go into your hips, you can also really fire up your engine, you know, like if you, and for me, especially because I do personal leadership programs, you know, and women's empowerment, if you go into a meeting and you know you have to stand your ground, nothing like a 5-minute staccato, you know, like really bam, 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 go, and then go into that meeting and see what happens. And that will be very lovely and things change. Yeah. So for me, you know, so the healing, and of course you can heal your heart's pain and that, but I want to keep it, in this talk, I want to keep it more to the everyday life healing for me, you know, the emotional healing and all the other stuff, and the ancestral healing is also involved. But for me now, and also because this is the first, for some people, the first connection to the rhythms, it is daily life situations that, you know, for me, the dance really relates to. And Gabrielle always said, if you can't bring the dance to the streets, you know, what should you do with it then? So, and I really love that. Because it's not about an hour long, la, 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 and then go home and do your...
It's relatable. Yeah.
It's relatable. And for me, the healing part of chaos is to really practice the surrender, to fall forwards, to let go, to back off, to shake off, to, you know, to shake up, to rearrange. And the physical thing is, because we say the gateway is the spine, and your spine is home, it's your nervous system, you know, it's your spinal cord runs through it. All your brain fluids go, you know, there's a huge system in there that if we get that stuck, we will get our brains more stuck as well. So if we start to move this, it is just really healthy for us. And if we start to loosen this, you know, so all things can run smoothly. And yeah, for me, it's our big data system. And also, in these days and age where we're focused on computers, televisions, things frontal and in front of us, we forget that we live, you know, there's a whole life at the back of us. And the spine is very essential. And for me, moving the spine also opens up your intuition, you know, like there's so many senses in your back, and if you start to use your back more, you can also, you know, you can sense more what happens behind you, and that helps me to feel more safe, you know, because I know when I get a message from behind, I'll act on it, you know, on the streets, and then you feel and you think, okay, I have to step aside. For me, it will not be a thing like, oh, that's a crazy idea. No, I will immediately step aside, see what, you know, and that's because my spine is connected. I feel things coming from behind. So that's for me a healing thing. And if you want to bring that to a deeper level, your ancestral lines are behind you, you know, so connecting with your spine connects you, and in that sense a lot of healing happens for the people that came before you but never had the possibility to do this, to be debt free. In lyrical, we invite you to move your hands, and if you observe people, there's a lot of tension in the hands. You know, people are, they're chewing on their fingers, they're biting nails, they do like this, or they have the fingers like this. And so our hands host a lot of stress, like any part of our body, but our hands are, so they are kind of a mirror to our soul. And if we start to relax them and move with them, and then they can help us expand our wings, but also the whole heart area. You know, when you move your arms, you open up. And so you become more receptive to space and joy, you know, or maybe when there's a lot on your heart, it will be a gateway to some sadness that didn't come through in chaos. But, you know, like it's, and also your hands, they take care of things, they create your food, they can stroke, they can also protect you. So there's this whole world to connect to. Yeah, and for me I think that moving with my hands and following them really brought me into deeper levels of my process, of myself, remembering things I had long forgotten. And sometimes, you know, you think, I wish I didn't remember, you know, but then again, yeah, but when you keep, but that's when I get stuck on the thought. But then when I keep moving with it and see, and really transforming that through my whole body, it can go, it can fly, you know, these hands can also say bye-bye, you know, they can wave to that energy, and that's nice. And then
that's a beautiful way to think about your body, all of those things that you've mentioned.
Yeah, and that, so it's my toolbox, and it's you know, it's a beautiful messengers. And then in stillness, the gateway is the breath. And for me, it's the most essential part of life, you know, because
we wouldn't be here without it.
Yeah, hey, if I stop breathing, it will be over very soon. And it's also, you know, like when I watch my dancers, so many times we hardly breathe, you know, like we don't allow ourselves to breathe. And it is also a cultural thing, you know, so many people are told like not to make noise. So we forgot how to breathe really freely, you know, and to sigh and to let go. So that to be really connected to your breathing is basically for me the beginning of the whole dance, you know. So that's where stillness becomes the flow again, starting to move with your breath, and then the whole cycle begins again and again and again. So I hope I explained it a little. And, you know, there is a lot of breathing. With breath, you can free a lot of energy as well. So.
No, that's excellent. And it's beautiful. Thank you. That's, you've planted a lot of seeds in my head with my own process. So that's beautiful. Yeah. You work with a lot of diverse groups of people.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that a little bit. You work with children. Tell us a little bit about your experience with working with children.
Yeah, well, the age group that I'm currently working with, they're 2 to 4 year olds. So it's a lovely, but they use me more as a tree to climb in, you know, or they, and I really love
They're still learning something. They learn by osmosis, so never mind. They'll get it, even if they don't show it.
No, definitely. And what I do with them is, for me, you know, like they're not really interested in the whole map of the 5 rhythms, but they move automatically in this map of the 5 rhythms, you know, because when I come in, they want to connect with me, and then they want to connect with their own little bodies. So that's the first thing I will do with them is we do little body parts, like can you move your fingers, la la la, you move your toes, you know, la, la. And then we round it up, and I do a lot of groundwork with them because they love it, and they love to roll through the space. So we roll a lot, and then we come up and we go down, and we come up and we go down. And I always work with them from stories. So I'll ask them, like, next time, what do you want to dance with? And they say dogs or ocean, and then I'll create a little story, and I'll put some music that fits that story. And it's a half-an-hour class. And I'll take them through a whole wave. So they will hear the difference in the music. They will feel those rhythms in their body. But I let them explore. And so when we're in the midst of an ocean wave and they say, yeah, but I'm a monkey, I'm not going to say, no, there's no monkeys in the sea. I'll just ask them, okay, how does the monkey swim? You know, like, yeah, do a swimming monkey.
Anything is possible.
Anything is, and that really lightens up my life, you know, because it is so wonderful to be a swimming monkey in an ocean full of fish. And that, so, and what I see with them, and I wrote a whole piece for the parents on, like, the 2-year-olds, they just begin to walk. So they don't have this very strong connection through their feet. So for them, it really helps them to find these feet. And like, oh, moving. You can, you know, they have a strong connection to the ground, but on their all fours or on rolling or lying down, but standing straight up, it's just the beginning. And so dancing 5 rhythms with them really helps them to soften these little feet and to ground their bodies into the erect position. And wow. And that is marvelous to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, I hadn't thought about the fact that their feet are not, that they're probably grounded, but not necessarily through their feet.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, of course, you can see in how they walk if their parents push them into walking, like a lot of people do, you know, and so they're more on their toes and so this whole thing on working with your feet helps them to put the whole feet down on the earth and to and they are automatically, when they fall down, they get up, you know, that's what they do. And that helps me to be more flexible in that sense, because I always go down with them and then we go up again. And for the
I'm sure you're learning just as much as they are.
Absolutely. And there isn't a class where I need to be so awake and so receptive as with them, because everything they say, I take into these little stories and like, oh yeah, follow that now. So there is always a certain amount of chaos in it, you know, and that's lovely. And and for me, that's really good, because I have to abandon my need to structure this and to, so that's a good learning. And it's so profoundly beautiful to watch how they do staccato, for instance. And then there are some songs that really help it, but they love it. And when we're with the pirates, it really helps them to go in there and to say no. And, and it's, yeah, so yeah, and it helps them to communicate on a different level. And because I use much more words with them than I will do with grown-ups, it's also good for their linguistic experience, because they get various words for feelings, for movements.
And probably to relate language to movement, to ground the language some way, because generally parents are like, I see this, you know, with my grandchildren, like parents are over explaining everything in such a theoretical way. Whereas if you can ground language to some kind of movement, I would think that that's probably, especially for them, because they are more tactile, that would be really,
it is so profoundly beautiful to see. And then also, you know, like how receptive they become to music. Like last time I was with them and I put on a little lyrical thing with bells, and they immediately started to touch each other and to touch their faces, and they were all very romantic. It was so beautiful. and I said, oh, we're in a castle and everybody is, and they were all like, yes, and we're princes and princesses, and they were dancing together, and I had some pieces of cloth so they could wave with it, and they were touching their little faces. It was so beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah, so
children are amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's I love it, and I love to observe them in their movement helps me to see what I'm gonna do in my grown-up classes, you know, because
I would think so.
Yeah. And
I think children are teachers rather than learners. Yeah, I learn more from my own children than anything in my life.
Yeah. Yes. But for me, you know, like even in my high school teaching days, I'm always from the educational system where learning is a circular motion. So if I'm not in a learning mode, I can't expect my students to be in one. So I have to be willing to make mistakes and to be in the same learning mode and exploration mode as my students. And then knowing that I have a lot of experience and a training behind me, but still, even in that sense, I'm also learning. I'm also developing myself into better teaching or...
I think that's true. I think that's why I teach, because that's where I learn. That's where I see what I don't know.
Yeah.
By what somebody asks me. If I don't know the answer, then it's a whole new perspective that I can't gain on my own. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And the things we explain to others remain longer in our minds and bodies than the things we get explained. So I always ask my students after class to explain what the learning was. And some people say, yeah, but it's words and blah, blah, blah. And of course, in the spiritual setting, we want stillness as the highest form of being and blah, blah, blah. But for me, I see this as a practice, as a learning spot. And stillness is very important, but also explaining what you experienced incorporates it. You know, it will be in your memory longer. So that's why
it's the only way to really know what you understood.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good practice, because very often we speak things and then what someone reflects back to us is something completely different than what we thought we were explaining to them.
That's I can have that. So learning point there. Yeah, but yeah, that exactly. And also I like sharing circles, and not to analyze things, but to just share and to feel like, wow, all the layers of learning through the practice. Like last night I had a class and it was all about the yin and the yang in energy, and either choosing to flow or to do it from an energetic, to approach the dance from a more yang perspective in the staccato. And then afterwards, people really had some profound insights. Like one lady shared with me, like, wow, I realized that my whole life I'm doing everything from the staccato, but I'm so tired.
Wow.
And now I feel like I have this insight, and now how am I going to change that? But yeah, the insight is the first step, you know? And so that makes it so interesting. And that makes the 5 rhythms every time, like, I'm like, wow, there's another layer to this. This is so beautiful. Yeah.
It's endless. It's infinite. Yeah.
Infinite possibilities. Yes. Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about your work that you did with high, or maybe you're still doing with high school students in this lover boy prevention program that you work with.
Well, at that time when I was doing that, I was not an official 5 rhythms teacher, but I talked with Gabrielle, and she said, well, go and explore in your classes how 5 rhythms works, you know. And I was teaching philosophy and sexual education and social science, and these are all subjects in school that they say it is important, but we don't have books. So, and I was like, okay, but if I don't have books, then I don't need tables, and I'm gonna throw them out and we're gonna move, you know, like.
Oh, good. That was good. Good excuse. Yep.
You know, oh, you're not giving me books. Well, leave the tables and chair then as well. And I worked on a lovely school, a profoundly lovely school. And they gave me kind of a free carte blanche to say, okay, go and do this. And we had a couple of these girls in there that were really, you know, like how girls in their puberty can be become so insecure during media, all the projections on women anyway. And in that age group, you know, this insecurity on their bodies, on their sexuality, on their... So I felt like, okay, I'm gonna work with these girls and see if we can ground them more into their bodies and get them to know their boundaries much better. And so from that working, I developed a program, and I'm a little lazy because it's a pretty good program, but I still think like, oh, I need to do something with it, but then it's somewhere hidden now. But when I was working with them, you know, in the beginning with these girls in puberty, they're like, yeah, really, you think I'm gonna move like that? And then more and more when you gain their trust and you say, okay, you know, and you approach it very physical, so not spiritual, but very physical, like, okay, start rolling or start lying on the floor, opening up your body. How does that feel? What do you want to protect? You know, how, you know, if you could lie how you want to, what does it look like? And so we moved through that landscape weeks in a row, and girls really gave me back that they felt much more secure, and they felt like they owned their own bodies more. And even, you know, the girls that were a bit bigger or skinnier, the ones that were suffering with the anorexic, felt like, oh wow, you know, like I'm now really feeling where I am, and okay, I was always being, trying to really see the beauty and the positive in their, you know, so there is a whole underlinement of positive feedback on them, you know, not because society tends to project all this shit. If you're not looking like this, you're not good. Or
well, it's in their head. I mean, I think that's the important aspect. If you can get them back to their own body, then it becomes something real instead of some external image that they're trying to. I think that's a huge problem. Yeah,
and it's also for the boys as well. And luckily my best friend, who is a remarkable guy, he created a program for boys, you know, and also when I was working with boys, you could see like they have the same insecurity, but they deal with it in a different, and they rather, you know, throw it over the fence or something. But for them it was also, you know, and then I didn't call it dance, but then I said we do martial arts, you know, and then in the end we were all dancing, but
movement is a good word.
Yeah. But they really loved it. And also I'm a rock and water trainer as well, and that is a very beautiful, profound program. And to help the boys that didn't feel the tough guys, you know, to do an exercise with the tough guys, and to see that actually they were more grounded than the tough guys, that was so nice. And then the tough guys were like, he was doing this, wow. Oh. And so for the group energy, there was a lot of change in their group behavior as well. There was less competition. There was more, you know, like, okay, we understand each other. You know, there was this guy who had they diagnosed him with something. He was perfectly normal, but he couldn't sit still for very long, you know. And so I invited him, like, every time when you feel the itch again, go run around the block and then come back, you know. So I opened the window so no other teachers would see he was leaving the building. And I said, well, you climb out of the window, you know, and then come back. He never, ever suffered his condition. He says, the fact that you give me the permission to climb out when I get the itch again, you know, does it for me. It's nice, you open the window, I can breathe, I know I can escape this, and I'm here. So all these little things, you know, so working with teenagers, for me, is also about accepting, saying yes to any state of mind, you know, saying, no, that's not, it doesn't work. It's like, yes, this is true for you, and now how do you move with this? And how does that define you? And how does that move in your body? And what do you want with this? What's your longing? And what, you know, and then go, and either boys or girls. I think we don't teach children enough that they are wonderful beings, and that they are provided with everything they need, you know, and they're magical. And so yeah, that program really
after childhood, yeah.
Sorry?
We lose that after childhood. I think children are like that, and then and the educational system is about putting people in line. It's not about acceptance or you know, embracing who you are or your magic, but more like setting some standard that people should live up to.
Yeah, and for me that's also why I left education, actually, because I had the luck that they let me transform that whole school into more of a system where it was more the natural learning, you know, like, what is your intrinsic learning? What do you want to learn, basically? And we had a lovely couple of years experimenting with that, and then I felt like, okay, now I have to leave and develop my own other things. But I still feel, I think there's a lot to be done with teenagers. And
and you've had the experience. So at some point you can go back to that and develop some program, but maybe now is just not the right time. Yeah.
No, at the moment I'm busy doing other things, you know. So, but
you're playing with your children.
Yeah, I'm a tree. And no, but I actually, but it asks a sense of discipline I really don't have right now, you know. So I'm going through my own little midlife, and I love that, but I need time and space to fiddle about. So I created a couple of years for myself not to be very serious, and to just ride the wave of my hormones a bit, and then we'll see what happens after that.
Again, embrace who you are. No, you'll find the right moment will come, and you'll sit down and do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
So you have a gift for our listeners. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what that free gift is?
Well, I wrote down a beautiful body parts meditation for you, so you can just read it, and there will be a link in there to a Mixcloud little piece, and then you can try it at home just to really go into your body parts, to really dive in there. And I created some music for that, so you can really follow that through. And then again, if you feel like, oh, I want more, then please find a class near you, because, you know, Five Rhythms is all over the world. It's a worldwide network of beautiful teachers, beautiful dancers. And on fiverhythms.com, you can type in, even you can download an app, and then it will plop up when you're close to a class. So that's amazing. And yeah, so that I really love that. And you know, like, what I really love about Five Rhythms is that we are a tribe. So if you're on holidays and you think, oh, I want to go to a class, you step into a class, people offer you sofa beds. It's so beautiful. It's kind of a nice global tribe. So yeah, I strongly advise that. And if you really want to know, if there's no class around you, watch the video again, try it, you know. I'm on Mixcloud. There's several waves of music, so they take you through the whole energetic field. Other colleagues of mine have on Mixcloud, so type in Five Rhythms. Probably you'll find lots of music in there, and you will love it. And
excellent. There's options, yes.
Oh, there's so many options, yeah.
And you have some events coming up.
Watch Gabrielle's videos, you know.
Yeah.
I'm just explaining something, but gee, she's the
source.
Mother, the source. She is, and there's nobody like her on this planet. So yeah.
So tell us about, you have some up and coming events. So tell us a little bit about that.
On the 19th of May, but that's more for the Dutch people, interesting, I will host a day workshop on connections through the dance with my colleague, because we've noticed that if we say in a class, find a partner, that a lot of people freeze or think like, or they lose their own ground. So we're gonna teach a whole day on, you know, where do you begin and where do you end, and how can you be in connection without losing yourself, and how can you learn from dancing in partnerships. And that's, I think that's a very important one, because we are social animals. So, you know,
dance is an excellent way to experience that. Dance is about community and bringing people together. So
yes, definitely. So that's one. And then in the 31st of May, a very beautiful retreat starts on the island of Ikaria, Greece. And there we're gonna dance and relax, and we're gonna incorporate the beauty of the island. I'm gonna invite people to create landscape art or write or sing or whatever they want to do in their free time, to be really in relationship to that beautiful spot, because it's one of the 7 blue zones in the world. Yeah. And it's one of the most healthy and profound places on earth, really. So, and we dance there in a beautiful space surrounded by sea, and there's the wind, and so we're really connected to the elements. And then the 29th of June, I will teach a day, but also in Amsterdam, on connecting to spirit animals and also the movement of animals. Because, you know, like if we look at developmental movement, we're so much more connected to the animal life. And so in the morning, we will research, it's a very physical workshop, all the movements inspired by animals. So being on all fours, being on the ground, you know, without feet, going up and down, and going into different animalistic types, like, you know, like a tiger really is different in its energetic field than a butterfly. And so we will research that, and then in the afternoon we'll go into a deep trance journey. And then in summer I will be in Bali teaching a 5-day heartbeat called All Is One. It's in August, in a beautiful resort on the riverside in the jungle, beautiful food, nice rooms. And for me, that is one of my workshops that is closest to my heart, I think, because so many times I've been suffering from how I separate myself from anything, basically, but mostly humankind. And I see that on the dance floor as well. And through the emotional landscape of fear, anger, sadness, joy, and compassion, we will gain tools in how to stay connected even when you need solitude, but not to disconnect yourself from the things around you. Because if we look around us, so many things are so disconnected, and there is still this idealistic dreamer in me that hopes that through the dance I can inspire people to reconnect again and to become a tribe, but also a tribe with the animals, with the grass, with the trees, with your enemy. You know, like for me that's
that's really, a good thing. Yeah.
So for me that's one of my most heartfelt, where I feel like and somebody warned me like, but then you have maybe it's more a political motive in there. Well, yes, I have a political motive in what I do, because I want this world to hold the next 500 generations, you know, and I want to show people that life is so much better when we find some sort of connection. So
Excellent.
So
well, thank you. Thank you for speaking to us today and taking us on your journey and the journey of 5 rhythms.
Yes. Yeah, and really I just step in a class once, you know, if there's a class near you, go there, check it out, and enjoy and find your feet. Have a great life. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you, and thank you to the listeners.
Yeah.
And
thank you, Leslie, for the
find your feet. You're welcome. All right.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.